I'm Dr. Jennifer Hastings, for those of you that are watching this video. And what I did is I actually invited some very special people in my life that can answer some of the homeschooling questions that we may have. And the reason why I'm doing this, as I mentioned earlier to our group before recording, is I have quite a few patients that are looking into homeschooling. And they're wondering where to get started, what to do. They don't want just their kids to sit in front of a computer for 6 or 8 hours a day. And so what I asked is I asked a couple of wonderful ladies here on their experience and how do we get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to have each one of you introduce yourselves, and then just let me know, how long have you been homeschooling for? And then we'll go into the more depth of questions and answers. So Dr. Lisa, if you could just introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Elisa Gerett-Marin. I am a chiropractor, so I do work full time, but I have been able to find time in between my schedule to homeschool my daughter for the past 4 years. I knew I wanted to homeschool ever since I was in high school. I saw my cousins were homeschooled. I just loved the idea, and I just knew I was always going to homeschool. I never knew, which direction, which curriculum, but I had been researching it. For the past over 20 years. So I just could not wait to have a baby so that I could actually homeschool them.
Babies homeschool.
We just love it. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that you first had the need for homeschooling and then you had the baby. So yeah. That need. Yeah. Callie, share with us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Callie Moran. We've got 2 kids. Our oldest is starting 4th grade, and then we have a son right behind her in 3rd grade. And we never had any intentions to homeschool. My husband was public school the whole way. I was private school the whole way. And there was always just that stigma around homeschooling. So that was never I don't want those people. And so that was never on the radar. But once Madeline started getting closer to kindergarten, I'm like, I'm not ready to send her to a system that's, it's all day. She was still taking naps. She was, 5 years old. I'm like, she still takes naps. She likes to play outside. She is so observant of nature. And I'm like, I want to enjoy these years with her. They're so short. And so I told my husband, I was like, let's just try it. She could already write her name. She could count to a jillion, who knows? And so he was like, well, whatever. So we started with kindergarten. And life has been topsy-turvy ever since. And it has actually ended up being like the biggest blessing because it has provided so much consistency for both of our kids amongst all of the change between military deployments, moving halfway across the country, and now a pandemic. There is that consistency for them. And it's just been a big blessing for us. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Now, if you don't mind me asking this question, you said the stigma. What is the stigma? I know that being part of chiropractic school for us, it's something that homeschooling was part of the conversation. And we actually went to school with kids that were homeschooled, and they were like super bright. So I didn't know that there was a stigma around it. What is the stigma?
I don't think there really is anymore. I don't think it's the same as what it used to be whenever, I was growing up. So back in like the 80s and 90s, mm-hmm. I think unfortunately there was like that label, like you're the I don't know. Come on, Mama's house. You know exactly what I'm trying to say.
There's a stigma.
There's
like that you're not social, that
exactly.
You're just like this weird kid that's in the
like a recluse,
mm-hmm.
You're kept to yourself and
okay.
Just that. I don't think it's like that anymore. I think that the eyes of the world are kind of being opened, that it's not really like that there's so mm-hmm. much more freedom and beauty and good that's coming out of it.
Yeah.
That I think the stigma has kind of been wiped away, or at least it has in my mind. And I'm starting to see, I'm like, if you're going to be like odd, you're going to be odd no matter what, no matter where you go to school. If you're going to, you are who you are no matter what environment you're in. So, yeah. And so that's why I'm like, at least now homeschooling, you get to teach your children to love everybody, no matter who they are and what they are. Like, they have their interest and you have yours, and let's just enjoy it all.
Okay, got it, got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And Elisa, I invited Elisa to be part of the panel because when I actually shared the post about homeschooling, she actually shared that she was homeschooled, I believe, through high school. So I actually wanted you to introduce yourself and then share with us what was your experience, and now as an adult, how do you see the value in having been homeschooled, you know, compared to what you see in other people that weren't homeschooled?
Well, I was homeschooled all throughout high school. My parents, I mean, okay, my parents, they decided to put me right after 8th grade into high school. Back then it was not through the computer. I'm not that old, but I think computer was around, but it wasn't like you could just, it was still like dial up and, you know, and all that. So you couldn't just log on like now and you know, it wasn't like that. We had to, they would send us the information, like the books and the tests by mail. And I would read all the assignments and all that. I would do the test and then I would mail it back. And like that. And at first I didn't want to do it. But when I saw that I could, it was kind of like a flex program. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like a full-time program. So it was like it's like I would compare it now to the FLVS Flex.
Okay.
So I could do it as fast as I wanted to. When I realized that I could be done with high school as fast as I wanted to, I really got me going. And I was like, let's go. And I would spend 5 hours. I was super focused at that point. And I ended up graduating high school in 2 years. And I was able to start Miami-Dade College at 16 years old.
Wow.
So that was very cool. Like I was always the youngest one in my class. You know, I was always, you know, and I was able to start physical therapy assisting school. I actually got into the program, I think at about 17. So I did the program there, and then, which I actually met my husband there. But anyways, and we graduated in 2020. So by the time I was 19, I think I had just turned 20. I already had my associates in science of PTA. Wow. And
we're ahead of the game.
Yeah. And then, you know, and I never, when I entered college, you know, I did have to take an entrance exam. My transcripts went through just fine. It was an accredited school. Everything was fine. I just had to take a remedial class in math, which quite honestly, I feel that's like my weakness. I feel like in math, I would have had to take a remedial class anyways, no matter what. I really do feel that. But I'm
sorry to interrupt you. Do you feel like you missed out on anything by homeschooling through high school?
No, I feel like I had at first I didn't want to do it. Mm-hmm. But afterwards, I've had so many friends around me, and I didn't suffer like that. My parents made sure that I had good friends around me. Okay. So I didn't miss out on feeling that, you know. I didn't have a prom or nothing like that, but maybe that's important to some people, and maybe it's not important to other people. I was fine without that, and you know, certain things. When I was going to college, my friends that I left behind in middle school and stuff, they were still in high school. So it was kind of like, I think it really gave me a fast track at that stage in my life. You know, a lot of them, I don't know what happened, but a lot of them didn't even go to college and stuff like that. So I really feel that was a very sensitive time in my life. I don't know. And it gave me like a fast track to get ahead.
Okay.
So that was great. It was great.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask a couple of questions. And let's see here. There you go. I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and you know, some of the most common questions that I've actually come across from our parents at the practice, and then some people actually in social media. How do you go about socializing? And I think we lost Dr. Lisa. So Callie, how do you go about socializing the kids if you're doing homeschooling? I think that's one of the questions where they say, you know, if they're homeschooling, they're just at home and all they're doing is learning. But I know from what I've learned from your family is, you know, the kids are very active and they have lots of friends. So share with me, how do you go about socializing the kids?
I think to start, the lack of socialization was never a fear of mine. Like that was never something that would have ever stopped me for it. So I think you have to define for yourself what socialization is and what that means to you. I think a lot of times, you know, people think that their kids are going to not be socialized, but to me, I'm like, there's more to socialization than being in a classroom with 30 other kids your own age.
Right.
I think going to the store with me is a huge socialization. They get to learn how to interact with adults and other people that are not their age. So there's, you know, just going places with an adult and speaking with adults is huge. For us, we are Christians, so we go to church. So they go to church on Sundays, and then we'll go on Wednesday evenings to an Awanas program that's geared directly for them. So they have their friends that they see twice a week there. And then they have a PE program. So if you're local to, it's not just down here in South Florida. I think I'm not sure it's Saints. It's several locations in Florida. I know they go up to Boca. I'm not sure how far around. So they have a PE where they're running around. I want to say it's like 9 to 12. It's a good 2 or 3 hours that they're running around and learning how to work together and interact and play with other kids. And then we've made connections with other friends that homeschool. And so a lot of our closest friends homeschool. So whenever we all finish in the afternoons, the kids are like, are we going to their house? You know, like every Tuesday to swim. So we kind of have like our set play dates that we'll do stuff with. So, and then any extracurriculars, ballet, Boy Scouts, all of that. So it's actually, our schedules are pretty filled up with interactions with other kids. So socialization, yeah, they're at home learning, but whatever, they're fine.
Yeah, there are socializing. I think what like you mentioned, the PE program, and then you got to meet other homeschooling families, and they get to socialize with them. Welcome back, Dr. Lisa. I'm glad that you're able to connect again. The question right now is that I've had from quite a few patients and friends, and is how do you socialize homeschool kids? So what do you get to do with the kids?
I actually think that homeschool kids, a lot of them are actually more socialized because we do have the flexibility. We do have more time with our kids. So, I mean, we're never home. So it's actually funny that, I mean, we do homeschool, but never do it actually in home. We do a lot of extracurricular activities. She's in everything from dance to taekwondo to music. To art. She's got just classes going on constantly to where she has tons of friends from everywhere. So it's really great. And we have the flexibility to have a lot of play dates. So we do that as well. And I mean, I get all the time that she is just so, wow, she speaks so well. How can she like have a conversation with an adult? And she's only 7 years old. And so it's just constantly, she has no problem going up to anybody and talking to anybody, and everybody is her friend. And so quite the opposite of what you normally would think of.
Yeah, and that's actually what I've seen in my office. As kids come in, the kids that are homeschooled, they are like above and beyond in confidence, vocabulary, ability to socialize with people of all ages, you know. And it's like talking to this cute grown-up in this little body,
a little person body.
Yeah, and it's great because, you know, especially like Callie, when you walk into the office with the kids, like, you know, all the patients are like just melting over them because you're just so amazing, you know. And you know, when I go to your house, Dr. Lisa, to get a justice like Sydney, you know, she's a little woman. It's delicious, you know. So contrary to popular belief, homeschool kids are more mature, have better vocabulary, more social, I think. You know, nowadays I do see even a lot of teenagers, that are growing up in the system that have trouble socializing because they're socializing through the media, they're socializing through telephones and computers, but they don't have that one-on-one interaction as much as homeschooled kids do. So I definitely love that. Elisa, are you currently homeschooling? I think you mentioned you're going to start homeschooling your kids.
Coincidentally, I had actually put Michael, he's my future 8th grader. He was in 7th grade. In January, I had just put him in January. So when COVID hit, it was already in there. I didn't have to worry about him.
Got it. And what are you doing now to socialize the kids?
Well, I agree with both ladies. I do feel that when they hang around with adults a lot, parents, I feel that is good socialization for them, but they also have friends. If you have like a religious group or something like that, mind you, I do feel that now in a pandemic, they're not hanging out with friends or anything like that, but they do Zoom. They talk on the phone a lot with certain friends that they have that we know their parents and stuff like that. But I right now we're not hanging with anybody because there's a whole pandemic outside. But so I don't know if to answer what we're doing now or what were we doing before?
What you would usually do, like what would you usually do? So I think like they said, the church, absolutely getting
right. So it depends on, your religious affiliation, or that is a big one for us. We're Jehovah's Witnesses. So we have a huge, we're a very close-knit group, as you probably may know. And yeah, there we have, and it's not just like young people, it's people of all ages. So once, I feel like once children, they start like communicating, they need to be able to communicate not only with their age, but they need to communicate with middle age. They need to communicate with the elderly. They need to communicate with all groups. And once they start doing that, I think it's so much, it helps them so much,
Absolutely. Yeah. To be able to be diverse in their communication. Another question that I get here is, how do you go about certifying, like, how do people know that they started the year and ended the year? So obviously with Florida Virtual School, it's a whole different ballgame because it's already in the computer, it's in the system. But, Callie, how did you go about, having them certify? Okay, they went from this grade to this grade. Where's the process? What happens?
Okay, so I would first say I'd recommend going to hslda.org, Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and that website is nationwide, and it'll give you the requirements for each state. So it'll tell you exactly what is required. We came from Texas, and in Texas, there's no requirements. You don't have to notify the state. You don't have to do anything. Here in Florida, you just have to submit a letter of intent with this, and then at the end of the year, which I'll tell you about in a second, you have to do either an evaluation by an accredited teacher, which there are a jillion options out there, and kind of that's like a whole gamut of things. Or you can have them do, I think it's like a testing, and I'm not doing testing on my little kids. Like there's enough pressure in life. So once in the state of Florida, once your letter of intent is approved, that is your start date. So you have 1 year from your start date to have your letter, your evaluation. Thank you. Your evaluation or the testing done. So
okay. Awesome. That's awesome.
That determines your start date. We started at one date, and I was like, I kind of forgot to do the letter of intent. So that letter of intent got sent in like 6 months later, whatever. And so that's whenever our start date does. And so it just, it's kind of, Florida is pretty, I don't think it's super stringent, it's just kind of like.
And it just depends. It depends on what program you choose as well. Like, I know with Florida Virtual, you can either do full-time or you can do flex. So with the flex, that's the one I chose. I mean, there's lots of, different schools out there, but that's the one that when I started looking, that's the one that a couple people recommended. So I was like, if a couple different people from different parts of my life recommended the same thing, I was like, let's look at this. So it's either flex or full-time. Mm-hmm. So the flex, you don't have to do testing. That's the one that you have to have a teacher evaluate you a year, like she was saying, a year after your letter of intent was turned into the county. Mm-hmm. But if you do the full-time program, that one you do the what's the name of the test that you guys do at the end of the year? Those the NWEA, all those testing. If you do the full-time program, that's the you have to take. It's like the SATs. Mm-hmm. That's you have to do it with the full-time program. But with the flex program, it's nice too because, like, for example, my 8th grader, I gave him the choice. Hey, do you want to do all 6 classes at once? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. I can handle all 6 classes at once. Fine. But with my 4th grader, this is going to be her first time doing it. So I'm like, let's not do all 6 classes at once because I obviously work too. So I'm going to be helping you in the beginning. Let's do 2 core classes. So we're doing 2 core classes, August through December, and then the other 2 core classes, January to May. So we can split it up. As long as she takes the 4 core classes, she's fine. But because it's the flex program, she can, we can do it however we want, as long as we complete it by the end of the year.
Got it. Okay.
The difference with the flex program, I'm not familiar with it. So are those classes determined by the state? Is that how that works?
It's the curriculum.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the curriculum that the full-time and the flex is the same curriculum. It's the same thing, except with the flex, she just can, it's flexible. She can take one class. She can take 1 class at a time, but she just needs to, when she finishes that one, she needs to take the other one and then take the other one and take the other. As long as she finishes it by the end of the year.
Got it. Dr. Lisa, what program are you doing?
Well, let me go back and add something to that real quick. A lot of people freak out like that they have to find a teacher or whatever. Just know that if you put your child in a lot of activities, I mean, if you're in the homeschool world at all, there are tons and tons of moms out there that were teachers originally or that know of teachers that are, you don't have to just seek out a teacher that is just a complete stranger. You can have a relationship with the teacher the entire year and they know your child, they know what they've been doing. All the evaluation is at the end of the year is to see progress. It's nothing to be worried about. My daughter was really worried when I even told her. I should never even told her that it was happening. It was so easy, especially if you had, like I said, a relationship with that. They just want to see progress from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year to the end of the year. As long as they see some type of progress, then it's okay. It's not like, okay, I'm going to test you and quiz you and, some big rigorous thing. It's just the way the law states is it's just progress.
And for us showing sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
And I was going to say for us, like our evaluator, what she wanted to do to show progress was basically I took pictures of what we'd done in the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and at the end of the year, so she could see just how their learning has grown. So it was as simple as that for us. It's just literally opening their math book up and be like, hey, first day, last day, a few days in the middle. So
yeah, I have a lot of my daughter's work is in workbooks. So when she does her workbook, I just save the workbooks. And so I'm going to save them all the way until she graduates so that I have proof and show like what her curriculums, what her schooling has been during that whole time. And then I'll take some other projects here and there and just add it to a folder. So it's not some crazy, difficult.
Not intimidating.
Yeah, not at all.
It shouldn't be intimidating.
Yeah, not at all.
So when you say you took pictures or you have a binder, How do you determine what you're teaching in a particular year? For example, from first to second grade, is there like a checklist that this state organization, the HSLDA.org, is there like a checklist that says, okay, well, this should be completed from this age to this age? How do you determine what happens through that?
Well, you don't determine that. When I sign them up as homeschool, yes, when you send in that letter of intent, yes, you are saying that your child is a homeschool student and you're in charge as the parent. But at least in my case, if I was a teacher, then I could homeschool them, but I'm not a teacher. So that's why I signed them up with this particular program, which is Florida Virtual. So they're going to be teaching my kids. I use their curriculum.
Got it. And then how do you determine what you're doing with regards to the curriculum?
Well, the state doesn't tell me what I can or can't or have to or don't have to teach. That's totally up to me. So I have basically chosen, you could call it a box curriculum, in that it's called My Father's World. And it comes with your history, your science, Bible. It's kind of like your core. And then I am able to do that with both of my kids. So we all learn those subjects together. And then obviously math and language arts are age dependent based on where they are. So I have something separate for both. I choose what I want. My Father's World makes recommendations like, hey, we recommend this, but you're free to choose whatever you want. So I have chosen something different for both of those. But there's, I guess, a lot of different ways you can homeschool. So it's kind of whichever style fits your personality and the way your children learn would be a good way to determine this. But as far as like, you have to do this class and you have to do this class, there's nobody that says what you have to do. You just have to show that you are making progress basically in the core subjects, like math and reading.
Got it.
Yeah, like I should say, I don't teach my kids. Like I don't, I'll help them, like, hey, that sentence is not correct. We need to, but I don't make up the curriculum. Like, I don't think I could do that. I'm not a teacher, but at the same time, having them home and having them do a homeschool curriculum doesn't scare me. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'd rather have them home and hook them up with the homeschool program, like a virtual school program.
Right.
Like
so you're following the Florida virtual curriculum type of thing that they give them every year.
Like, I don't teach them. Obviously, if they need help with something, a project, or hook up with the computer, especially for my little one, I'm here. When I come home from work or whatever. But I'm not doing the teaching.
Got it. Dr. Lisa, what are you doing? Are you doing a particular program like Callie says? She mentioned My Father's World, which sounds really interesting. What are you doing, Dr. Lisa?
So my core is the classical conversations, and we meet as a group once a week. We learn what we're teaching all of the kids. We do science, we do history, we do Latin, we do different math facts, we do history, timeline. We do a lot of different things together as a group, but then we also do a science experiment together. We also do an art together, and then we model that like at home. We do that same thing at home with our kids all week long. And then we come back the following week, the kids get reviewed on that same material for the past 6 weeks. We go on, we move to the next week, and we learn all of that together as a group. But then we also, because language arts and math is kind of more like a level, like Callie was saying, we all choose our own curriculum for that. So for that, I use Singapore math. And then I also use, my daughter's 7, so she's still learning how to read. So we use different phonics programs with that.
So that sounds like fun. It sounds to me like you have a community of parents, right? If I get this right, and you're meeting once a week and you're reviewing different subjects, but then you go home and you modify based on what's age appropriate, like for example, the math.
Yeah, so yes, very similar to that. But yeah, we do our math, our language arts on our own. But there's so many different curriculums out there. There's so many different styles that it's very awesome. As a homeschooler, you can go and choose, this subject from this curriculum, this subject from this curriculum, whatever is best for your child. So I really recommend first figuring out, how do they learn the best? What is their personality? Do they enjoy sitting down, reading a book with you, learning their history, or would they rather learn history facts? Would they rather, sit in a workbook all day? How do they enjoy learning? And then you can find curriculums that match that.
That sounds great. And that's, I love that. So years ago, I came across a concept which I didn't pursue too much, because at the time we found out that the closest school for that was up in, I think, Boca, but the Waldorf schooling, which is, I think, based on that, it's like, how does the child learn, and then applying their best way of learning to having them learn. And then they kind of say, okay, well, today I want to learn this. We went to chiropractic school, and I can't remember his name, but, he grew up in Waldorf schooling. And so, he didn't really care about reading or writing. And he told me that when he was 9 years old, he's like, you know what, I want to learn to read or write. And then he really indulged in it, where he learned, full reading, writing, and English. Then he went into Japanese, then he went into 2 different Chinese dialects. And by the time he was 13, he had mastered these different languages. But that's because he was really ready, and that's what he really wanted to go into.
I think that would be called unschooling. Like if you, for the different types of homeschooling, I think if you had to categorize all of them, there's about 6 different styles. So you have like traditional, where you basically, I don't think it's sustainable for homeschool moms, but you're trying to basically replicate the classroom. That's just not really what homeschooling truly is. And then you have classical, the classical model. And that's very similar. I mean, that would basically be your curriculum for, if you wanted the classical model, would pretty much be like classical conversations. And that classical conversations is nationwide. And then you have the unschooling, which is, it's very student-led. So like you said, if you have a son that's interested in like race cars, well, that can turn into like every subject. You now have studying speed and physics, and like you can take that deep. If you love butterflies, it's like, okay, well, let's just learn like every phase of butterflies. So it's very student-led, and you really don't have a curriculum for unschooling. And then you have unit studies. And My Father's World, what we do is kind of like a unit study. So it takes like a theme and a topic, and it incorporates every subject into like that topic. So if we're talking about like ancient Egypt, we're going to learn about like pyramids and how they're made. And our math is going to be kind of intertwined into like everything based on like that period of history that we're studying. And then you have eclectic, where you just kind of like piece a little bit here and there. It's like, well, I like this for this math, and I like this science. You kind of just piece together. And I think over time, a lot of mamas will start to do that. You're like, oh, you find what you like and what you're comfortable with and what works for you. So you kind of just start pulling from here and there. And then finally, I think you have Charlotte Mason, which is very rich in literature. And so you learn through reading and filling your students' minds and yourself with like rich literature and good morals and values. And she was big on students learning through nature, like go outside and play and see the beauty of the world around us, and sparking their love of books. And so I really like that one as well. And then like what Elisa is saying is you have, the virtual options. Like you have the the sort of virtual, I'm not familiar with what they're called, but you have that option as well. So it's like you can learn at home, but then also you don't have to figure all this out. This school district, right? Or the state kind of tells you, it guides you along. So
yeah, because I know with me, I thought maybe eventually I would put Jade, my little one, in homeschool, but I wasn't ready to do it now. I mean, she was doing well, she was doing fine, and she was, fine. Let's leave her in school. Because when I put Mikey in January, there was a moment when my husband and I were like, oh, should we put the little one in? And she was doing fine, so we left her. But now with the pandemic, I said, oh, no, that's it. I'm not sending her back. I mean, not because I think, I just don't, I feel like if they open schools up, they're going to be just, worried about, this one is sick, or the teacher's sick, or, they're going to just, I feel like they're going to spend more time worrying about that. And I just want to shelter her from all of that. I mean, if she could just stay stable, at home, just uninterrupted learning, that's what I wanted, just uninterrupted learning, then, that's obviously the best decision.
And that's what Callie said, which I love, that you've been able to homeschool Callie through, the transfer and, still through this whole thing, and it hasn't stopped, and the kids have actually been thriving. I feel like the kids have been, emotionally and psychologically thriving. And that's what I see with Sydney too. When I walk through the door, is they're thriving. So would you ladies, if you girls can just share with us some websites or links, and we'll start with you, Callie. I know that you mentioned slda.org, and that gives you national information and then state information with regards to the requirements and what to do. Any other websites? What is the website for my father's world, Callie?
My father's world? I don't know. Google it.
Yeah, Google it. My father's world homeschooling.
Yeah, it'll pop up.
Absolutely.
I would say FPEA, Florida Parents Educators Association. I think I got that one right. That's like a state organization, state specific, so that can give you that one. Say if you go on Facebook, there's a lot of resources on Facebook for you can type in your local groups, or find that. I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time.
What's your favorite one?
I don't necessarily know that I have a favorite one. I just listened to one right before I hopped on here, and it was super awesome for parents in this stage of okay, I think I don't want to put my kids back in because of X, Y, and Z. So that was super good. I'll send you the link to that one.
Okay.
I really like Heidi St. John. There's some books that I really like by Sarah McKenzie, Teaching from Rest, and what is her other book? The Read Aloud Family. Love Read Aloud Family. And Teaching from Rest by Sarah McKenzie.
Yeah. I would say her podcast is amazing. Read Aloud Revival.
Yes. Oh my goodness. She has, I think reading aloud to your kids is so important. I mean, it is so huge. Even if you have kids that are older, it is so good for their vocabulary and hearing proper sentence structure and things read correctly. It's huge. And Sarah McKenzie is the one that really turned me on to reading aloud to the kids. And sometimes I can't always sit down with the book, but if I'm not reading to them, then we have an audio book going. We always have some type of book in the car or wherever we are. So she is a huge advocate.
It's funny that you say that, because there's times that when we're going to sleep and I'm reading something, my husband will actually ask me to read it out loud for him. So I think even adults like to be read to.
It's so good. It's so good for your brain. And your brain responds to it the same way as you can learn and gain just as much by being read to or listening to an audiobook as if you're reading it yourself. So it's good for the brain either way. You're getting it.
Thank you for sharing that. I will definitely start to incorporate that more often with my family. Dr. Elisa, tell us a couple of your favorite, what websites can they go to, favorite podcasts if you have any, and then books also. What do you recommend?
Well, definitely the Teaching from Rest. And I cannot say enough things about that book, that for anybody, it doesn't matter what type of homeschool curriculum you choose. That book is a very easy read, and it just kind of puts your mind at ease as to it. However you do it is okay. It doesn't matter what day what the day looks like. If you have a bad day, it doesn't matter. It's all okay. And just be at peace and happy and enjoy the process. It's really,
I think it really encourages you to slow down and not freak out. Like realize that you're going to be okay and your kids are going to be okay. Like just see the beauty in it and slow down. You know,
So reading from rest.
Yes, Sarah McKenzie.
Okay.
teaching from rest, not reading from rest. Teaching.
Teaching from rest. Yeah. Okay, got it. Sarah McKenzie. Okay.
And then this one also from Sarah McKenzie, The Read Aloud Family.
Okay.
That's her.
Awesome.
Oh, good. So good.
What else, Dr. Lisa? I love it.
So if you're thinking about the classical model at all, even if you're not, the core, it's called the core, really helped me understand a little bit better as to how to teach. Again, very similar, like putting my mind at ease. One of the main things is really hard to grasp for some people is that your kids are used to going to and having a certain schedule, and to kind of break that thought and train a mind that it doesn't have to be a certain way, that there are so many different ways to homeschool and be very successful at it, and not just like be okay, but thrive. And you just really have to figure out how that looks for you and your family and your kids. And there's just so many different things out there that help you and guide you in whichever way you choose. And there's not one right way. I would highly, highly recommend going to HSLDA and not just looking at their resources, but signing up for a membership. If you are homeschooling, it is a legal defense system that is there and has your back. It's a very cheap registration fee. But if anything ever comes up, I haven't heard of anybody that needing it. However, you just never know. You just never know. And if there is anything that ever comes up, they have your back and they will defend you if you're a member of that. So if you homeschool, I just feel like it's a must to have.
Yeah. Great. Sounds great. And then I have, Elisa, a question for you, because I know that you started this in January, is, one of the things that I would visualize if I was to start this, as we spoke earlier, Isabel graduated from high school. She's going to be starting college. But I think that if we were to be doing this maybe 10th grade, one of the things that I would see is I could already see Bella wanting to sleep in until like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's like, yes, no more school, Did you come across anything like that when you went from regular curriculum into the Florida virtual school in January? And if so, then how did you deal with it? Or no, was he just getting up and ready to go?
Well, no, he was not just getting up and ready to go. When I was doing homeschool in high school, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she did let me sleep in. I have no problems with letting them sleep in. Wayne, on the other hand, typical Caribbean guy, he's like, no, they need to get up. I'm like, Wayne, right now there's a pandemic outside. Just let them sleep. It's good for their immune system. Just let them sleep. But when I put him in January, Jade was still going to school. The little one was still going to school. So I would get Mikey up and he would come to work with us. So I have a private office in the back of the clinic. So he would go into the private office and do his schoolwork there. Yeah. So, that's
I love that. Dr. Lisa, you take Sydney to work too, right?
I do.
Yeah, I think that's so good for them. It's like a take your kid to school day every day. They get to see what you do. They get to, and when it would get a little bit busy in the office, let me tell you, he would take a break, and come and make hot packs for us, cold packs for us. He would talk with the patients, and the patients are like, aren't you supposed to be in school? And he's like, I'm doing homeschool. So that would be another conversation that he would have to handle, and it was a very nice thing to just have him there in the office, and he was thriving. And then the pandemic happened, so now they're home, but we'll see.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, ladies. I so appreciate this. I think that I learned a lot. And I know that whoever watches this and whoever has joined us on and off actually has learned a lot too. As I mentioned earlier, we will be uploading this, and I'll let you girls know when we do upload this into YouTube, like that we can share it with those people that have questions and answers. Thank you so much. And to a successful school year coming up ahead, right? Nothing's stopping us from moving our kids forward and having them learning.
I really honestly, I feel like, you know, there's so many opportunities and so many options out there. And even when they go to high school, like I'm learning about this now, like they can do a dual enrollment, they can do so many things. They can finish high school earlier. Can do so many things. It's so nice.
It's amazing. Yeah, my daughter did that. She did some college classes. She would actually go on campus and, you know, do both high school and college, and there's just so many great opportunities. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else y'all want to add?
I think I would say, like, just as a reminder for anybody that's getting started in this, like, there's no perfect, like, school in a building. There's no perfect teacher in a building. There's no perfect mother. And there's going to be no perfect curriculum. So it's like, do your best one day at a time. If it works, keep going. And if it doesn't work, that's the beauty of homeschool, is you now have the freedom. It's like, this does not work. We're all losing our mind. Let's find something new. So you have the beauty to do this. So do your best one day at a time. Your kids are going to adapt really well, and you're going to all be okay. Nobody knows your kids better than yourself. You're not going to ruin your children.
No. And I also feel like
they're going to be okay.
Yeah, they are. And I also feel like with the program that they're in, especially because, you know, I'm not doing the teaching, I feel like it's so one-on-one. You know, when it's a regular brick and mortar school, you know, they have to deal with your child, and they have to deal with, I don't know, 25 other students, you know, and so there has to be a few kids in there that fall through the cracks, you know. And when I find that with the little bit of time that Michael has been on, I find that the teacher calls, it's like a one-on-one. It's not every day, but she'll call to find out, you know, they have to do these discussions. They have to make sure that he's doing well. They have to make sure that he's progressing. If he doesn't do well on a test, he can make it up to 3 times to make sure that he understands that material. If not, they really have to get on that phone call and, you know, find out what's going on. They don't stop until they make sure that he learns it, you know. And then after you see that your child is doing that and he's doing it on his own, it kind of becomes like a whole family, you know, thing. Like when you sit at the dinner table, you start bringing education. That's been our experience.
It almost becomes like your lifestyle.
Yes,
it's like an atmosphere in your home.
My husband went to Costco. He just brought back this. So it's like, you know, I don't think he would have ever bought this before, but because our mind is going there now, you know, we try to, anywhere we can, as a family, you try now to help in your kids' education.
Throughout the years, one of the things that I have learned is a key to a child's success is a parent's involvement in their life.
Parental involvement.
100%. And I think that, you know, with all this that has happened, you know, we have to go 2 ways to go about it. You know, let our environment rule the future of our children, or take action and support our children and do everything that we can so that they're not stuck, they're not living in a paradigm of fear, so that we're still supporting them and they're still growing. And I personally really think that this is just such a great option for so many families out there, because it doesn't matter which way you do it. Like you said, Callie, there's really actually, you know, no wrong way. And who better to know your kids than you, and who better to find a way to support them, you know? So with that said, thank you so much, ladies. Thank you for all of your information and all your help. And like I said, I'll be uploading this, and I'll let you know if anybody has any other added questions, okay?
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.